Hey everybody, it's me Stacy at Scrapbooking Made Simple here with another YouTube demo for you today. Now today it's kind of a question and answer type of YouTube. I'm going to assume I know what questions you have and I am going to try and answer those questions. We get a lot of questions about dies and die cutting and machines and why do I choose the Sizzix Big Shot machine over any other die cutting machine out there. And I'm going to tell you, if you're a crafter, any kind of crafter, and you're not into die cuts, don't turn me off. Hold on, wait before you push the stop button. You might just want to watch. This is a really good time to learn about die cutting and what it can do to enhance your crafts. Now, when I started die cutting years ago, it was when Sizzix brought out the first time to the retail market dies for consumers, and they sold letters, alphabets like shadow box, and you had to buy it one letter at a time. So I went to my Michael's every week with my 40% off coupon and I bought my one letter every week until I had my entire collection because I wanted to die cut felt to spell the names on all of our Christmas stockings for my entire family. And that is how I got started. That is the very beginnings of Scrapbooking Made Simple. And since then, there have been lots of other die companies that have come onto the market and lots of other machines that have come onto the market. And I'm going to talk to you about all of them, and I'm going to tell you pros and cons of all of them. And of course, I'm going to tell you why we like the Big Shot the best. I've also got the Vagabond with me today. And I want to go over some things with the Vagabond that are really important. Especially if you're using spellbinder dies, it's crucial that you get these steps correctly, otherwise you might run the risk of harming your Vagabond machine, and that would just be a shame because it is a wonderful machine, also by Sizzix and inspired by Tim Holtz. So I'm going to get started. We're going to tilt down, and hopefully those of you who are not die cutters will still hang with us and maybe learn a thing or two. And if not, then I'll see you next week. I've got some really great stuff going on next week. With Heartfelt Creations and Brilliance Ink by Sukaniko and a few other things. But we're going to start for today, so I'm going to tilt on down, okay? Bye. Down we go. All right, how's that? Pretty good? There we go. I think that's pretty good. Okay, so we have got a whole bunch of different things that work with dies, that go with dies. First off, Big Shot machine right here. This is it. The Big Shot machine. This is the pink and black one. It used to be sold under the name of Ellison Designs. You may have a blue one. It is also sold as a Big Kick. What is the difference between a Big Shot machine and a Big Kick? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. A Big Kick machine is sold to large box stores. So Michael's will carry a Big Kick machine. Joann's will carry a Big Kick machine. Then Ellison chose to do the Big Shot machine, and the Big Shot machines are sold to independent stores. So us little mom and pop stores out here. You will never find a Big Shot machine in a Michael's, and you'll never find a Big Kick machine in my store. They market them to two different retailers, but they are the same machine. Big Kick is red and white, I think, and the Big Shot is pink and black. So it's really your choice, whichever one you can get at a great deal. Wherever place you have it, that's where you buy it. Other than that, there is no difference, and they both work exactly the same, and they're both great machines. So that's the first question we get asked a lot. What's the difference between a Big Shot and a Big Kick? Nothing. Change of color, different stores sell them, and that's it. Now we also get a lot of questions about the multi-purpose platform. This is what comes with your Big Shot or your Big Kick machine. This is invaluable, and I can tell you from what I know, Sizzix has discontinued these. I can't reorder these if something were to happen to yours. And if I could give a shout out to Ellison, boy, we sure would like you to bring these back. Boy, I tell you, we have customers that need them desperately, but they have come up with something to replace it. I don't know that I like that something better, but at least we have something to replace it. This is your platform that comes with your Big Shot machine. It has different tabs on it, tab 2, tab 1, and your base tab. Everything you will ever need to do with your Sizzix machine, you will do, this platform will allow you to do it. So you really only have 3 options when you're playing with dies. Well, 4 options, let me say 4 options. Your first option is to take what's called a steel rule die. This is a steel rule die. See how thick it is? as opposed to a wafer die. Steel rule die, it means it actually has blades in there. So you need to be careful because there are real blades in there. Steel rule die means you just put it between two cutting plates and you send it through your machine. You just roll it on through. And that's true for either your Vagabond machine or your Sizzix Big Shot or Big Kick machine. You don't need to use this platform with a steel rule die. And the beauty is, if you were to put the steel rule die on your platform and try to put it through your machine, it won't go. It's too thick. So that tells you something's wrong. There's no chance this will ever get through a Vagabond or a Big Shot machine because it's just too thick. So when you're using steel rule, you only need to use the two clear cutting plates, and of course these cutting plates do come with your machine. For every other type of die, you will use your multi-purpose cutting pad. And Ellis and Sizzix have given you the directions right on each tab for what type of dies or what type of embossing folders that these work with. What I tell people in my Die Cut Diva class is that when using this, you only have 3 options. If you were to put a die on the top plate and you were to try and send it on through and it went all the way through, or it wouldn't fit, it didn't go through all the way, then you know you've got it too thick and you need to open up the platform. Then you try it on this one. And if it goes through, great. And if it's still too thick, then you try it on this one. Those are your only 3 options. That's it. And the same goes if you put a die here and you sent it through and it didn't cut, well then it's not thick enough. And you bring it right back and try it on the next tab, and if it still goes through and it hasn't cut or embossed, then you bring it on back and try the top tab. Those are your options when you are using other types of dies. Now the other types of dies are Sizzix Sizzlets, and I've got 2 here. I've got a long 12-inch die, actually it's about 13 inches, and I've got a large Sizzix Sizzlet. Sizzix Sizzlets come in several different sizes. This is the large. They come in mediums, they come in smalls. Sizzix is the only company that makes Sizzlet dies. Okay, they're the only company that does. Now if I was to put that Sizzix Sizzlet die on the top platform and send it through, it's not going to cut. It's too thick. So if I open up my tab, you'll see that they talk about Sizzlet dies down here. Right here it will tell you this is the tab to do your Sizzlet dies on. So I would put my die in between my 2 cutting plates and send it through my machine, whether it be a Vagabond or a Big Shot or a Big Kick. Now, some of the other machines that are out there are Cuttlebug, made by Provocraft. It's a fine machine. Yes, you can use some Sizzix dies on that machine, not all Sizzix dies. There's the Grand Caliber by Spellbinders. That is another die cutting machine. It's also a fine die cutting machine, but you can't use the majority of Sizzix dies on the Grand Caliber. I gravitate and really appreciate the fact that Sizzix and Ellison have made die cutting machines with the Vagabond and the Big Shot where you can use almost everybody else's dies in their machines. To me, you should only have really one machine. You don't need to have 5 or 6 different machines to do everybody else's dies. The Grand Caliber is a great machine, but it will only do wafer dies. And this is a wafer die. See how thin it is? Now Sizzix makes wafer dies. They're called framelets. And Memory Box makes wafer dies, and die-namics makes wafer dies, and Mary Ann makes wafer dies. All of those things are called wafer dies. And you can use all of those in a Spellbinder Grand Caliber. But you cannot use a Sizzix Sizzlet die, so none of the Tim Holtz dies, and you can absolutely not use a steel rule die in that Spellbinder Grand Caliber machine. So you've really limited yourself to just wafer dies with that machine, and that's one of the main reasons we don't promote that machine here at Scrapbooking Made Simple. I want you to be able to get the most use out of your tools as possible. So use the machine that gives you the most flexibility, functionality, and gives you the most options. Now, if I was doing a wafer die, again, I've got my clear cutting pad. Don't know what I did with, oh, my other clear cutting pad, and of course I'd have paper on it. And I was to send it through my multi-purpose platform on tab 1, and I was to send it through my Vagabond or my Big Shot machine. It would not cut because nowhere on here does it say wafer dies. You have to close it and keep your platform completely closed, and right there at the top they say wafer dies. And again, a wafer die is any die that is super thin. That is a wafer die. So I put it on there and send it through my machine. Your multi-purpose platform is very important, but if something happens to your multi-purpose platform, you can't replace it with the exact same one. They have come out with a new platform that is bigger, longer, and again, it gives you a more workspace. So let me show you that. This is what you get with your Tim Holtz Vagabond machine. You get this platform, and you can see the size difference between the two. So it's much longer than the multi-purpose platform you get with your Big Shot machine. You also can purchase that same platform for your Big Shot machine. Why would you want to purchase this platform for your Big Shot machine if you already have a multi-purpose platform? Let me tell you, if you are going to do any of the longer dies, this is one of Tim Holtz alterations, you need that longer platform for it to fit. Now, I could put 2 dies here without any problem, or I could put little Sizzix next to it. It just gives you a bigger work surface. I could have 2 of these going at the same time, or 2 different ones going at the same time. What you need to know is that these come with shims, and the shims click in to the side. And these shims correspond to the built-in tabs in your multi-purpose platform. So this shim here, the solo shim, would be just like your tab 1 in your multi-purpose platform. Okay? The solo shim that it comes with would be just like tab 1 in a multi-purpose platform. And the way you click them in is on the side. They just kind of slide into these little, line it up, and slide them on into these little brackets. And they're on both sides. So it's almost like a little paper clip that you slide it into, and it holds it down. Now, Sizzix, and again, the same thing. You get the exact same thing with your Vagabond machine. Exact same thing with your Vagabond machine. The same platform, they slide in on the side. It just happens to be brown because all of Tim's stuff has that brown hue to it. Sizzix tells you that this is the only platform you'll ever need. Okay, I kind of agree with that, and I kind of don't agree with that. And I don't know if they're gonna love me for this, but it's not the only platform you're ever going to need to be able to do your wafer dies, which would be, with your multi-purpose platform, the top, tab 2. If you want to do your wafer dies, you must have this shim as well. So while they say it's the only platform you're ever going to need, well, it may be the only platform, but you also need to buy this shim. And that's important. And it doesn't matter if you buy the blue one or if there's a brown one that matches Tim, as long as you have the Solo Thin Die Adapter. Solo Thin Die Adapter. not the solo shim. The solo shim is what comes with this set. So if you go to purchase, you need to be sure that you get the solo thin die adapter, because you can purchase this piece separately all by itself. Let's say something happens to this and you need to replace it. You can purchase this one all by itself, but if you're not paying attention when you go to order online or you go to the store, you're going to end up purchasing the wrong item. You're going to end up not getting the thin die adapter. And again, it has a wafer die right on it, and it works with the Vagabond machine, and it works with the Sizzix machine, the Big Shot or Big Kick machine. Again, with the Grand Mark, or not Grand Mark, the Grand Caliber from Spellbinders, you cannot use any other die but a wafer die. So you cannot use the Tim Holtz or the Sizzix Sizzlet dies or the steel rule dies. With the Cuttlebug, yes, you can use both of these dies, but there are other dies that you cannot use. They will not work. Okay, so hopefully now you see, again, why it is that you need this piece. If you're never going to do long dies, you really don't need it. Or if you're never going to want to do multiple dies at once, you really don't need it. If you have your multi-purpose platform, you should be okay. But if you want to do larger items, then you're going to want to have this. It just gives you a much nicer, bigger work surface than the multi-purpose platform. You will never be able to, well, you can, but it's really not good for the die. You won't be able to use this die with this platform. Some people will go ahead and try and run it through, and then they'll lift it up, and then they'll turn it around, and they'll run it again. It's really not good for the die because it really creases the die. So you would want to have the longer platform. And if you're going to do any type of wafer die, you are going to want to have the solo thin die adapter. That's so important. Now, cutting plates. Sizzix always requires that you put your dies in between two clear plates and then send it through the machines. That's how the Sizzix machines work. With the Vagabond, they give you the really nice long cutting work surface, but they give you the standard plates. I'm not 100% sure why, but that's what you get. Again, you will then need to go and purchase the extended plates, the extended clear plates, if you are going to want to use any of the longer dies. You're going to want to have these extended clear plates. Okay? I recommend that you always have, if you're using the long cutting pad, the long platform, you should use the long plates. Even if you're doing a small die, I think it's just easier to use. It doesn't wobble. Everything stays where it's supposed to stay. But you do not get these plates when you purchase your Vagabond. You get the standard size plates. And those will work, absolutely. They absolutely will work. But it's not as easy to use, in my opinion. It's better to go ahead and purchase the longer plates. Okay? And with Ellison, with Sizzix, they always want you to cut between two plates. Now, people have asked a lot about the black mats. And what are these black mats and why do I need these black mats? These mats are very important to different applications, and there's 3 different types of black mats. There is the squishy black mat. There is the hard black mat. And then there is the one that's pliable. It's kind of an in-between. The first 2 are the silicone mat and the impression pad. These 2 always work together. You keep them together, they work together. You would rarely use one without the other. There is an occasion where you might use this without this, but for the most part, these work together. And why do you keep them together? These you use if you are going to do any kind of embossing with Spellbinder dies. Spellbinder dies, they cut, they emboss, they stencil, they've got a whole bunch of features to them. And I am going to pull one out, and we're going to do one right now. And we're going to do it on the Vagabond because it's really important that if you have a Vagabond machine, you follow these steps. So I'm going to move my Big Shot out of the way, and I'm going to pull the Vagabond machine over. Okay, this is our Tim Holtz Vagabond machine. Closes up, makes a little cute little suitcase. Turn it sideways so you can see it. Cute little suitcase when you close it all up. When you open it up, this is an electric machine. Hear it? It has the wheels, it takes the rollers, it's underneath, it pulls everything on through. When you're using this machine and you're using your steel rule dies, again, you're just going to put them in between two clear plates, put your paper on top, and send it on through. Very, very simple. However, when you're using a Spellbinder die and you're cutting, let's go through that. I have got my shim here, my long multi-purpose platform that has the solo shim attached to it. And I am going to need to put on top of that my solo thin die adapter. And that's going to go on top. And that doesn't have little tabs, so it just lays flat on top. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put one of my clear plates down, and I've got my do not cut clear plate. I'm going to put my die, and then I'm going to grab a piece of paper and put it right over the top, and then my last clear plate. That is the sandwich to do a Spellbinder. Move my Vagabond back over here. I'm going to put it in, and I'm going to send it on through. Take it out, and it has cut my die beautifully. Where the issue comes into play with the Vagabond is when you want to emboss this die. I'm going to emboss it for you, and I'm going to show you the difference. We sent this through with that solo thin die adapter. To do an embossing, we need to take that solo thin die adapter out. You cannot forget to leave it in. It must come out. If you send this die through to emboss it with that solo thin die adapter, your dies are going to get wedged in your multi-purpose platform or in your Vagabond machine, and you're going to harm the machine. It's important that if you are going to emboss a Spellbinder die on the Vagabond, you do not leave your solo thin die adapter in the sandwich of your cutting plates. It must come out. So I have now taken it out. I've got my clear plate, because we always have our clear plate. I'm going to put it into my platform. I have my die with the paper facing up. Here's the top of the die. Here's the bottom of the die. I've got my die with the paper facing up. Next, I'm going to put that squishy mat, that silicone mat, right there. And in place of my other cutting pad, I'm going to put the impression pad down. Now, if I had left this in there, What happens is because this is so long, because your cutting pad is so long, it will feed into the machine, and by the time it gets to the die and realizes it's too thick, it gets stuck and you can't pull it back out. You can, some have tried, some have gotten so stuck that it's impossible. But I want you to not make that error. I don't want you to harm your machine. This is a great machine and you spent a nice little chunk of money on it, and it would be so sad to have it not work for you. So if you are going to emboss, and I know I've said this a lot of times, but if you're going to emboss a spellbinder die, you must remove the solo thin adapter. Then you put your die face up on your cutting pad. You put your silicone pad over the top, your impression pad, that's the hard one, and then you send it through. And that will do a beautiful, deep embossing. Ooh! Can you see how it's put the embossing into the die? All right, well, I'm going to try and poke this one out. It's in there pretty good. Oh, there we go. So there's my cut, and it's all been embossed. When you use the Vagabond, it's very, very, very similar to using the Big Shot machine. It's very easy to use, but you do need to be careful, because you don't have that opportunity with the Big Shot to go, oh, this is too tight, this isn't gonna fit, I'm not gonna force this through, and to back it up. Once it starts going in, especially when you're embossing spellbinders, that seems to be when most of the mistakes happen, the dies do get stuck, and I don't want that to happen to you. So, Vagabond machine is an awesome machine, especially if you have any kind of arthritis or any problems with your hands. It has a back and a forward button. Sometimes you can get it to reverse out, but try not to make that mistake, and then you don't have to worry about it. This solo thin adapter must come out when you are using your Vagabond machine and you are embossing that spellbinder die. If we were using our Sizzix Big Shot machine, what would happen is, where's my multi-purpose platform? What would happen is you would be using your multi-purpose platform. We would put the die, put our cutting plate down. Let's find our cutting plate. We'd put our cutting plate down. We'd put our die down. We would put our paper down. And then our other cutting plate. And we would send it on through. Send it on through. And it'll cut beautifully. Ooh, come out. There we go. Now, if we were to take this, and it's cut our die, if we were to take this and put our silicone pad on top and our impression pad, because that's in lieu of the last cutting plate, and we were to try to put it through, it's going to say it's too thick. It won't go, okay? That won't happen with the Vagabond machine because the plates are so much longer. It will take the beginnings of those plates in, and by the time it realizes that it's too thick, your dies may be stuck. So with the Big Shot machine, there is absolutely no way for me to force this in. I would have to take it, and like I had said earlier, you only have 3 choices. I would have to open it up, put that tab through, try it on this tab and see if it's still too thick. And nope, look at it's taking it just fine. And there we go. And now my die is cut and it's embossed. Now the die is, there's a embossing on that die. Okay, so That's really important, and I hope that those of you who have a Vagabond machine pay good attention and don't make that mistake. We've had several customers have to have their Vagabonds replaced because they didn't use the right shims to get their spellbinders through. Okay, so moving on. Let's move this out of the way. Some of the other platforms that they have that maybe you don't know what to do with. This is another platform that you can absolutely use for your long dies. They brought this out years and years and years ago. Do I recommend it? No. If you're going to buy a long platform, you might as well purchase this one because you get twice the width. If you're going to do it, you might as well just get the better one, and that way you could put more than one die down and you've got a much better work surface. This one, you really have to keep it centered. You don't have it, you know, if it scoots a little bit, it's going to go off and it's not going to cut. You really don't have a lot of wiggle room with this. This one's $10. This set's $25. For peace of mind, go ahead and get this one. It's much better, it's much more friendly to you, and it gives you a lot more opportunity for the die to move if it absolutely, you know, so it can go that way, it can go off center and still cut, not a problem if it happens to slide. If you were to do that with this one and it went off center, no, you're now not gonna cut, you're gonna lose these areas over here. If you already have this one, use it until your plates wear out, because this is also, you also have to buy the thin plates that go on top of it. Use it until the plates wear out, and then instead of replacing it, go get this one. I think you'll find it much easier to use and much more friendly for you. Okay? Different types of dies. The wafer dies I talked to you about. There's spellbinders. There's framelits. Here's some more new Sizzix framelits that we have. Heartfelt Creations makes wafer dies. They're actually made by spellbinders for Heartfelt Creations. All of these dies you would use with your solo thin die if you're using your long platform, or you would use with your multi-purpose platform completely closed. Okay? We have new dies out now. They've gotten bigger from Sizzix. We have the new Bigs large dies, and this would be a flip it. And that's what you would use that other black plate for. Remember I told you it's kind of malleable? You use this, this is called a crease pad. You would use this when you are using any die that has a scoring in it. Flip-its have a scoring to make the card. We don't want to cut through that scoring. We don't want those blades to come up and cut all the way through. So, with a die like that, you would go ahead and put it on your clear platform, your clear plate, put your die down, and instead of your second clear plate, you would use the crease pad over the top. And you would send it just like this right through your Big Shot machine or your Vagabond machine. And again, you cannot use this die with a Spellbinder Grand Caliber, and you cannot use this die with a Cuttlebug. It is too wide. So the Bigs dies with the Cuttlebug, the XL Bigs dies and the long dies, they're just too wide to use with your Cuttlebug. So that's a whole level of die that you now can't use with your Cuttlebug machine. But if you have the Vagabond, the Big Kick, or the Big Shot, and you have a die that has any kind of scoring on it, and a lot of the XL Bigs, a lot of the long ones, are cards and boxes and things like that, you would want to have this crease pad. If your die is cutting through, it's probably because you're using a clear plate on top and not the crease pad. They do sell the crease pad in two sizes. It's sold in the extended size and in the standard size. I'll tell you, I like the extended size even if you have a standard size platform. It just makes it easier. You've got, again, it gives you more space. It goes through just fine. And then if you do ever upgrade to the longer platforms, if you do ever upgrade to the longer platforms, then you've already got this and it's good to go. You don't have to purchase another one. So when you are using the malleable black, you are using it for scoring marks so that you don't cut through. And that is what those 3 different black plates are. You've got the gushy one, which is the silicone, which is gushy, say gushy, and you've got the impression pad. These are kind of like Ginger Rogers and Fred Astaire. They always go together. Bread and butter, they tend to always go together. And then the malleable one is if you have scoring lines on your dies. Okay, moving on. We get questions about embossing folders. Most embossing folders are exactly alike. This one is a Sizzix Alterations. This one is a Cuttlebug. For all intents and purposes, they're the exact same thing. Okay? Yes, you can use this in your Cuttlebug. You can use the Sizzix in your Cuttlebug. You can use the Cuttlebug in the Sizzix. Not a problem. Yes, they will both go through the Sizzix boutique little purse embossing folder. Doris makes embossing folders. Several companies do. And again, for the most part, they're very, very similar, made very, very similar, and yes, you can mix and match. Just because you have a Cuttlebug machine does not mean you can't buy the Sizzix embossing folders, and vice versa. And again, if you have the multi-purpose platform that comes with your Big Shot machine, it's going to tell you that you can use the embossing folders. But even if you didn't read, and you put your embossing folder with your 2 clear plates, two clear plates, even if you put that on and you put it on top with your Sizzix Big Shot machine, it will not go through. It's just too thick. It won't let you do it. So then you know, oh, too thick. Gotta open it up and try the next tab. Put it through. Well, if we're gonna do this, let's actually put a piece of paper in there, huh? Let's grab a piece of paper. Open it up, put your embossing in there, close it, and put it through. And see, takes it just fine. No problem. Same thing with your Vagabond. And I'm all nicely embossed. Same thing with your Vagabond, only we would be using the long plates that it comes with. It shows you right here, textured impressions, embossing folders, and it tells you that you would keep this shim right on. You would not be using that thin shim for the wafer dies on top. You would just use it just the way it is. Same thing, you'd put your plates down, you'd put your embossing folder down with the paper in it, you'd take your other clear plate, put it right on top, and send it right through, and it would take it just fine. If for some reason you left this solo shim on top and tried to send it through, it will take it. It will take it all the way up to this point where the die starts. This will fit through no problem. It will take it all the way to this point where the die starts, and at that point, if it gets too tight, it will stop and you will have a hard time pulling this out of your machine. You need to be careful when using this solo thin die adapter. You need to make sure you only use it when you're using thin wafer dies, and only when you're cutting thin wafer dies, not when you are embossing them. Okay, so we have gone over a lot. I want to show you, just because I hadn't shown any kind of card or any kind of samples, I wanted to show you some cards that were made by our customers here at Scrapbooking Made Simple. And I'll go over everything really quickly at the end. But I thought it would be nice to show off some of the cards that were made by some of our customers. Some of these are birthday cards for me. Some of them are samples for the store that they were kind enough to make, but they were all done using die cutting machines. And most of them, as far as I know, all of them were done using a Big Shot machine or a Vagabond machine. So Here we go. This is using a Sizzix Inkit letterpress plate and the Tim Holtz embossing folder. And here we have another card, happy birthday card to me. And again, we used embossing folders for the background, and she used what looks like a spellbinder or a framelit. Isn't that a beautiful card? This is actually a Sizzix designed card that we made. And here we go again with another embossing folder. So you can do beautiful, beautiful, beautiful cards and projects using your die cutting machine. It really opens up a lot to you. Another card again using an Inkit letterpress on the background, and then the flowers are all die cut out for you. And here we have another birthday card for me. The flowers were all die cut out. Beautiful, isn't it? And these were all made by Scrapbooking Made Simple customers. Here we've got an on the edge die, a Tim Holtz on the edge die to make this card. And this looks like it might be a Sizzix set that has the little banners. And we've got what looks like to be the Tim Holtz tattered flowers. And some spellbinders here. All done with a die cutting machine. A magnolia card. This piece here was all die cut out. Isn't that just beautiful? All hand colored by Yvette. And last, another birthday card. So I'm going to tilt on up and just kind of reiterate real quick. Hold on, I'm going to tilt on up. And I'm going to say, if you're using your Sizzix Big Shot machine, if it doesn't go through, don't force it. You've only got the 3 tabs to work with. And so if one doesn't work, try the next one. You'll find that one of them will go through and it will cut beautifully for you. If you're using your Vagabond machine, same thing. Put them through, and if it doesn't cut, you need to be careful not to use that thin wafer die shim if you are embossing your spellbinders. You need to be very careful so that your dies don't get stuck. But you only have so many options to play with. If for some reason you put an embossing folder through and you've taken off the top shim of your long platform and it didn't emboss, put that top shim back, the one that's actually connected to that cutting plate, that cutting platform. But when you're using that thin wafer adapter shim, just be careful, okay? About the other machines out there, Cuttlebug, it's a great machine. You just can't do everything with it. I think that for your value and your most functionality and friendliness, a Big Shot machine or a Vagabond machine is really where you want to be. And again, the Spellbinder, the Grand Caliber, yeah, it does wafer dies like crazy. It's great with wafer dies, but why limit yourself to just wafer dies? So we're going to go ahead and I'm going to put the Sizzix Big Shot machine on sale this week because that's what we're really featuring. I'm going to do that for a YouTube Yummy, and I'm going to put all of the Sizzix dies on a YouTube Yummy this week for you. So from 1 week after the air date of this YouTube, all of our Sizzix dies will be on sale, and the Sizzix Big Shot machine will be on sale for $59.99. Now, it will not be for free shipping. It's just not possible for us to absorb that for you. But at $59.99, I think that's a smoking hot deal. We'll have them in the store for that price too, just for 1 week. And we'll do the Vagabond machines at $189.99. And again, we won't be able to ship it for free, but that's a great machine. I hope I was able to answer some of your questions today about the different die cutting machines and some of the platforms and some of the plates and why you need them and why you don't need them. Some of them are out there that you've had forever and don't know what to do with, so hopefully I've been able to explain to you what it is that you do with them. Anyway, where are you going to find all of these great products for sale? You are going to find them at scrapbooking-made-simple.com, www.scrapbooking-made-simple.com. scrapbooking-made-simple.com. And thanks for staying with me on this YouTube. I know it might be a little bit long, but when you're working with dies and die cutting machines and you've invested so much of your money into them, I want to make sure you utilize them and you get the most out of them without doing any damage to them, okay? All right, it's me, Stacy, Scrapbooking Made Simple, and I will see you again next week. Bye, guys.